Good evening, baseball fans. We have finally made it. It is playoff time. Some say it's Red October. Some say it's Wild Card Series. But either way, at the end of the day, playoff baseball has arrived. Matt Trace, the Source. I am Quigs. And Source, let's just go ahead and start breaking this down, man. We've already had one game completed. We've got one game currently going. We've got two coming up. One in about 35, 40 minutes or so, and another one at 8 o'clock. Where do you want to start, man?
Well, I'm going to start. I want to say congratulations and a happy retirement to both Adam Wainwright and Miggy in Detroit, Miguel Cabrera. Two great careers coming to an end. Who would have thought that? Oh, and also now, because of that, I saw, fun fact, there is now nobody left that has batted or played against the Montreal Expos. So, but I know we were just talking about a little bit earlier. You didn't get a chance to watch the game. I watched it. I was starting to get a head cold, and with an interview tomorrow, I decided to take the day off. Tampa Bay, Texas Rangers game. What a shit show! Yeah. I'll just tell you that.
We like to keep it family friendly, but you know what? You get one, we're gonna burn through it right away, and I completely agree with you. That was an utter shit show by Tampa Bay and all 19,700 fans in attendance for playoff atmosphere. So, what went wrong, man? I had to work all day. You got to watch it. Break it down for us.
Well, 4 errors from the Tampa Bay infield does not help you any. Their pitching was bad. Their hitting was bad. They were leaving guys on base. Glasnow pitched terrible for how good he is, and it was a lot of pressure for him to step up to be the number one guy with them having no McClanahan. But their infield, what's that?
I said just pointing down to Big Ben. We'll be getting there. We'll be getting there, buddy. Don't worry.
The game itself, Texas from top to bottom. Simeon got shut out. Grossman got shut out, but the rest of their lineup came in clutch for them. But Tampa Bay's infield, and I know this is a controversial topic because of everything that he has gone through, but you can tell that Tampa Bay is missing Wander Franco in the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. But them not having Brandon Lowe in the middle of the field, there was just a lot of problems with the center part of their infield, and it showed today. And this is why I know we're going to get into our picks later. This is why Tampa Bay is going to get swept in this first round, is because they don't have it on the defense. They don't have the pitching. They're coming in and they're as a terrible team right now. Their record doesn't show it, but they are a absolutely terrible team.
Yeah, what is it too with Glasnow? Like you said, he didn't pitch the way that we know he can and the way that he performs. Is it just like postseason jitters? Is it just something up? Maybe, I mean, he didn't pitch all year too. He was coming from Tommy John, if I'm not mistaken, or some kind of surgery. So, I mean, him being fatigued really shouldn't be much of an issue, or so I think.
Well, I know at some point during that game, I forget which inning it was, he did take a 109 mile per hour fastball off of his leg. So,
ooh, yeah, that'll do it.
But he did play in 17 games this year. He had 97 innings pitched, gave up 81 hits, 41 earned runs. I mean, he played pretty decent. Well, at least against the American League, he played pretty decent. So he was in 21 games total, 120 pitches.
And it's not like the AL East was a total layover either.
No, they were right there with the Orioles from start to finish. They led that division for how long this year? So he was not a terrible pitcher, but to step up, because you figure McClanahan was their ace this year. He carried that team in every game that he pitched in, every game that I could see that he pitched in. He was just lights out.
Cy Young favored for most of the year, if my memory's terrible as it is. So if we want to fact check later, we can, but I'm fairly positive he was a favorite Cy Young winner throughout the year.
I'm pretty sure he was too. So it's disheartening to see this with the Tampa Bay team. I don't mind it to the point that, like, us as we're our area, the Baltimore Orioles craziness that's going on.
Weird
It's
area.
nice. Yeah, it's nice to see that too. It's somebody different. It's two different teams out of that division, but man, like that, it was a train wreck from start to finish in that game for them. I feel bad for them in that aspect, but Texas is finally showing how good they are, and they didn't need Max Scherzer for it.
Or DeGrom.
But
yeah, I'm just looking over the box score here real quick too. Glasnow got lit up over 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned, 5 walks to 8 Ks. While on the other side of the diamond, you've got Montgomery throwing 7 no-hit innings.
Yeah, and I will say one of the runs that he did give up, it was kind of fluky. There's a guy on third, and this was a great after he got hit with the line drive in the leg. I couldn't really tell if his leg slipped, but he threw the ball and he just sailed it a little bit, and it went right off the top of the catcher's glove, and that's how the one run came in.
I saw one too where was it Siri in center field went to pick the ball, it shot straight up in the air, and he just airmailed third base into the dugout.
Yeah. I mean, I know I talked about the center part of their infield was bad, but even like their outfield were bad. Like Yandy Diaz played terrible at first base. He had a fielding error. Like it from start to finish for them, it was horrible.
Yeah, now, 4 errors on the game. Let me
now on the counter side of that though, the Rangers struck out a lot, so that's going to play factor, I think, as the playoffs go on. They were swinging at everything. Everybody struck out at least once, except for Semien and Eric Carter. So,
no, I believe it, and no worries, Big Ben. We'll fill you up here real quick. The Rays were the first game on today's slate. Currently, you have the who was it? I just had it and I blanked. You have the Twins and the Blue Jays going right now, which just finished the 6th inning. At 7, you've got the Brewers and Diamondbacks, and at 8 o'clock, you've got the Phillies and the Marlins. So that's the slate of games today. Do you want to give your pick now for what you think is going to happen, or should we move on to the next game, bring up the bracket? What do you?
Well, I mean, we just want to go game by game. We can do it that way. I think Texas takes Tampa Bay 2-0 in this series. I like the matchup between Eflin and Eovaldi. I mean, we were lucky enough that we've seen Eflin pitch for years. I think Eflin is a lot better of a pitcher. That would put for my side of my bracket for that corner, Texas versus Baltimore, which we can talk about later. But I think the matchup between the Rays defense and the way that Texas can hit the ball, I think it's just too much for them. I think Eflin's going to have a really good game. It's just not going to be enough. I got to say Texas in 2. Like this, it's hard to not go in that route.
Yeah, but I think though this is probably one of the few areas we'll actually disagree. While the pitching matchup should favor Eovaldi over Eflin, well, and Eovaldi too, for argument's sake, he's had experience and everything. But I think Zach Eflin's definitely going to give you some confidence being down 1-0 in a winner go home type of game. I don't think Tampa Bay commits 4 errors yet again. No way are they going to allow themselves to be offensively as dead as they were before. If Texas wins, it's definitely not going to be a layover, and it's definitely not going to be like a game like it was today. I think Texas will win in 3, but I think Tampa Bay picks up the next game. And then that would send them on to face Baltimore.
So to answer Dan's question, none, because I'm banned from playoff baseball.
I was not going to get into that. Matt and I, or Source and I, decided we're going to talk postseason. We're going to go matchups. We're not going to get into how Angel Hernandez was the worst rated umpire all year after missing how many ever games with a back injury.
No!
I don't get triggered often. Angel Hernandez triggers me.
We'll touch on that real quick because we have a good while to go here.
We got time. I can't get caught up in it.
Yeah, no. So to Dan's defense here, I know he's picking at us, but Angel Hernandez is the reason why the he will never coach or umpire in postseason baseball like game the other, or I guess
Angel Hernandez couldn't
however
umpire
many nights
immensely
ago.
correctly.
However many nights ago in the Phillies game when Bryce Harper got ejected on a terrible check swing
That
call is
was
enough reason.
It was Thursday.
Yeah. So
because they were in the Blues.
yeah. See. Oh yeah. Yeah. I couldn't remember which. I didn't remember which game it was.
Yeah,
I knew
that's
they were
the
in the
game.
Blues.
He took his helmet and he chucked it into the crowd and got fined for endangering the fans. Well, Angel Hernandez, you endanger my brain with your lack of being able to umpire a game. But again, I'm not going to get triggered. Going to take a breath. Going to take a breath.
So I guess that means that takes us into the current game that's on there, Quigs. That's Minnesota-Toronto.
Yep, let's keep it rolling here and say screw Angel Hernandez one final time for the rest of the year because we're never going to see him again until next year. Hopefully we don't see him next year. Minnesota's up currently 3-1. They are now on top of the 7th with 1 down. Source, you were just saying before we jumped on, the Twins pulled their starter who just, again, on paper, I wasn't able to catch any of the games this morning thanks to work. Unlike Kevin Gausman, Lopez looks like he did a half-decent job over 5 2/3.
Yeah, high pitch count, ERA, low ERA, not very many strikeouts, but not many walks to go with it either. Just what you expect out of Pablo Lopez, right? I mean, it's been a career year for him, I believe, as a starting pitcher.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're correct.
His ERA doesn't quite show it, but he was tied for 3rd in Major League Baseball with strikeouts, 17th in WHIP, 23rd in ERA, tied for 35th with a win-loss record. So, I mean, this was his coming out party for his career. So, it's exactly his pitching debut today in the playoffs was, well, I don't know if this was his debut in his career, but his pitching in general for the playoffs this year is exactly what I thought his debut was going to be like.
Yeah, no, and for anchoring the Twins staff too, the way that he has, and wait a minute, they still have Sonny Gray too to go, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, him and Sonny Gray have just been the anchors of that rotation. And when you said he was third, you said he was 3rd in all the American League in strikeouts?
I think he was 3rd in all of baseball in strikeouts.
Holy crap. For whatever reason, I didn't think he was a strikeout pitcher. Maybe that's just because I don't get to watch enough AL Central, or did he completely change from when he was in Miami?
Yeah, I mean, you figure in Miami 2021, which, again, fluky year or whatever, he played in 20 games and had an ERA of 3.07, but he's well below his career ERA. He's well below he's right on par with his WHIP. Highest amount of innings pitched, highest amount of strikeouts, one of his lowest amounts in walks. His K to walk ratio was, I would say, middle of the pack. So, like, this is, to me, like, this is exactly what you expected out of Pablo Lopez. I mean, with them not starting Sonny Gray today, that's like, this is on par to what I think they expected out of Pablo Lopez when they brought him in.
No, they sent, that was the Ariz trade too, right? So
yeah,
I mean, this is one of the few instances where, at least in the short term, both teams seem to have won that trade. But
100%.
But with, I mean, the way that this game's going too, the way that Kevin Gausman got roughed up, I think the Blue Jays are in just a rut where they're good, but they're not good enough to get over the hump. For whatever reason, they're giving me some major Twins vibes of the last, 20-some years you were saying before?
Yeah.
Where they have, what's the stat on there that you were sharing?
So entering this game, and you froze there for a second there, Tim, but entering this game, the Twins were on an 18-game losing streak in the playoffs alone. So a win today ends that losing streak. I think that they're going to end this losing streak in a big way today. I think they hang on here to win. I just think their pitching is a little bit better, but it's kind of surprising when you sit there and think about the teams that they've had in the playoffs over the years that they've have not been able to win games.
So I'm just trying to pull up my big old stat sheet here real quick to see what's going on. Looks like
And actually, statistically in this game, like Toronto has played a lot better than Minnesota has in this game, just across the board.
Yeah, I was going to say there's only one guy doing all the offense for the Twins from what I saw.
Yeah, that's Lewis.
Yeah, 2 home runs, a 2-run bomb in the first, and a solo in the third.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Royce Lewis, his first at bat in the first inning, hits a home run. Then this is his. They said his playoff debut. So there's no better way to make a debut than have 2 home runs.
I mean, I can name a better way, but that's going to bring up some. that's gonna bring up some personal.
Yeah, but I'm
pain.
I'm talking about for him though. For him,
yes.
There's no better way. But I mean, Toronto's not striking out. Like they have 3 strikeouts for the whole game. Their biggest problem is they're just not getting on base. They have 5 hits, but they're not walking either. So they're playing disciplined baseball at the plate. They're putting the ball in play, just not how they want to put it in play.
Did see one. I don't know if it was a bunt or a swinging bunt, but Carlos Correa made a coming from behind third base, ball short hop the third baseman, and it was kind of in no man's land. Guy was rounding third trying to score. Correa picks up bare hand, guns him at home.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like they ran themselves into an out there. Anybody at third base probably would have done the same thing because it would have taken a hell of a throw to get him, and Carlos Correa just happens to have a hell of a throw.
Yeah, I didn't see who was coming in, but I did see that they just pulled Chad Green out for Toronto. He's throwing 14 pitches. Cabrera's going in. Sorry. Cabrera's going in. Chad Green won in a third innings, 1 strikeout, 14 pitches. No runs given up. So
looks like they are getting back to the top of the order there, so maybe they wanted the lefty.
But so since we're talking about this game a little bit, that's I sat down, I thought about this a little bit because I was going over a little bit before the game or before we got on here. Minnesota, Toronto, regular season tied at 3, very, very even matchup. Record-wise, they're within 2 games of each other. So I think the series is going to be along the same way. So I feel like Minnesota is going to get over this hump of this losing streak, but I also feel like they're going to get over the hump of getting out of the wild card. And I think they beat Toronto 2-1.
I'm with you on that one too. The Twins aren't going to throw away this performance from Lopez, and I don't know if they've got Gray lined up for game 2 or if it's just how it's going to work out. They're going to have them for 3. I haven't seen anything quite yet, but if they have Sonny Gray going game 2, then it might be game over for Toronto. But if Sonny Gray doesn't go, I'm with you. I think Toronto bounces right back, and then Twins take it at 3. But I think this is going to be one of the more closely contested matchups of this wild card round.
I feel like even if Sonny Gray does go in game 2, whether it's game 2, game 3, I think Minnesota's bullpen is going to have it's going to have a down game somewhere in there. Sonny Gray can pitch a great game. Their bullpen comes in and they just struggle. But don't forget that they do have Joe Ryan and Kenta Mayada behind Sonny Gray yet.
That's true. And probable pitchers, just went to the Twins website here. Looks like you could probably see Sonny Gray versus Jose Barrios in game 2.
And Barrios is a really solid number 2 guy for Toronto.
It is. So that's going to be, again, this is going to be the most tightly contested series of them all, just based on what we've seen in this first game that's going on, and on paper how it should slate out for game 2.
So then I would assume maybe Kenta would probably be pitcher in game 3, or they go. I mean, either way, Joe Ryan or Kenta in game 3 isn't too bad for Minnesota.
No, it's not. This is what I'm looking at right now. So I mean, they haven't announced it since they've got Thursday. But
for argument's sake, though, I think for Minnesota, you're talking a really good, solid opportunity to
Oh
have either
yeah,
Kent or Joe Ryan, because behind Barrios for Toronto, you're talking maybe Chris Bassett as the number 3 guy, and I can't.
he's had an up and down year,
Yeah,
if I can recall.
I just can't depend on him to be that guy to be in a position to clinch for them. So, but yeah, we're on the same page here. We both think Minnesota over Toronto in 3 games, and probably the tightest matchup
Yeah.
in the first round.
I
In
mean,
the wild card round.
even if it does go 2-0 in favor of Minnesota, game 2 could be one of those one run decided late. One error is going to be the deciding factor. It could be one of those things too. So
let's stay on here to the American League real quick, because we'll talk a little bit just what let's finish off this side of the bracket. I think it's just going to be easier for both of us, so we're not like back and forth.
Let me pull the bracket back up here.
So with both our picks, we both have Minnesota versus Houston, and obviously then we got the Texas Rangers, Baltimore Orioles matchup. What do you think, Tim? Like, what do you think of those matchups?
I'm interested to see how the Orioles do. Clearly, I'm pulling my National League homer, but if I was going to ride an American League team, call it, proximity, how many times I've been to that ballpark, I really like that young core in Baltimore. It's just going to be a matter of if that starting pitching holds up. Felix Bautista, they had a bombshell drop where he's going to have Tommy John. He's going to be out for the foreseeable future and into next year. And probably, since we're this late into the season, probably all of next year too. So it could be almost a 2-year wait until you see him back after agreeing to a contract extension. So not all is lost for Baltimore, but wouldn't shock me if Baltimore just goes out and literally just throws it down against the Rangers and sweeps them in 3.
I like you're thinking on that a little bit. However, I'm going a little opposite. I do think the Orioles win that series. I think they come out a little slow in the first game. They lose the first game just because they've had all this time off. I'm not saying all this time off is bad for them, but that's a lot of rest. And you figure Texas is going to go in already 2-3 games in. Like they're playing, or they're playing. Their guys are up to par. Yeah, they're warmed up. So I have Baltimore winning 3-1 in that series. Here's a little bit of a twist, though, and I know this is going to disappoint a lot of people. I have Houston sweeping Minnesota. Houston.
Yeah, I could see that.
The thing is, and you and I know this, and all the fans watching and everybody across any form of baseball knows, you have to be hot to go into the postseason. Houston went in hot like they have year after year after year. And even with all their time off, it is so hard to sit here and say that Houston is not going to sweep Minnesota for how good they have been going into the playoffs. And I think Minnesota is just going to get tired after this Toronto game. In a 5-game series, you go down 2 games to Houston, it's a long road to battle back from.
Yeah, and obviously speaking from personal experiences there too, when you go down against Houston. The thing is, though, if you're looking for a saving grace, if you're rooting against Houston, this is not the same Houston Astros team of last year.
It's not.
They're not quite. How do I want to word this? They're not quite the power punch they were. Last year's team would sweep this year's team under the rug if you're going year by year for the Astros. But the Astros are still just that good of a team. Obviously, they're the number 2 seed for a reason. But I'm with you there. I'm thinking 2 sweeps out of the ALDS. So, you're obviously giving the Rangers a game. I'm saying clean sweeps for both.
So that takes us into the ALCS, where we would see Houston versus Baltimore. I think both of us are on the same page here. We both like this matchup. What route do you see this going, though? If
there's going to be one that I'll preface this by saying the ALCS, if it's the Orioles and the Astros, that's going to go 7 games. The National League Championship Series will not go 7. The American League could go 7. As much, you know what? Screw it. Baltimore in 7 games over the Astros. Logic tells me that Houston is not going to go down easy. Logic tells me that Houston very well could win it in 6, possibly 7. But I'm going to go with the young gun Orioles and a never say die attitude with where they won 100 games. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, they won. They had 101, and
Yeah.
I believe Houston had 90 and finished first in the West.
And I also believe too that the Orioles manager is the only manager in recent history to have managed a last place team to only then come back the next year, or a losing team for that matter, or under 500 record, and come back the next year and lead them to the playoffs. So they've got this grit. They've got the grit. They've got all the. So we're again, I'm blanking here. They've got that kind of underdog mentality in a way, even though they're in the number 1 seed.
Yeah. It
reminds me a lot of Philly.
I say I hate this. I hate to use this comparison, but it's almost like that year that your Eagles won the Super Bowl when they were the underdog a lot. Like Baltimore as being the best team in baseball this year, well, second best, I guess you could say. They have that underdog mentality, but I went logic on this. I know, shame on me.
It's
hard not to. I took Houston in 6.
To.
I took Houston in 6. I just think I know it's not the same Houston team, but to your point, Baltimore is so young. Houston does have some veteran playoff experience in there.
They still have that trash can.
Yeah, they still got the trash can. But I just think it's hard as a young team to just come out and be like, "Hey, we're just gonna outright beat you." I'm giving them 2 games. I'm giving them 2 games. I think Baltimore is very capable of being in this series. This is not saying that they are not capable. I don't want people to tag me and think I don't think Baltimore is not capable of being in this series. If I didn't, I'd have them being swept. But it's just Houston it's Houston. Like it's hard to say.
Again, logically too, Houston pitching wise, Houston lineup 1 through 9, Houston bullpen, Houston. It all on paper says Houston, but
I'll disagree on the lineup 1 through 9 part though, because Baltimore's lineup 1 through 9 has been actually really stout all year with the young guys. The advantage that they have with 1 through 9 minus a DH that Houston has over Baltimore is their fielding behind their pitching. Batting wise, Baltimore is right there with Houston. Like that's where I'm going to disagree with you. I think 1 through 9, Baltimore has a slight advantage because they are younger, they're a lot faster. They can get on base, they can steal bases. It's just Houston's defense 1 through 9, including the pitcher, is I just think one step above Baltimore.
Yeah, especially I get what you're saying there too, fielding wise. Yeah, I'm just trying to run through my head real quick, position by position. Up the middle, both teams are solid. On the corners, both teams are solid. There's no obvious glaring holes that you can see. The only thing that I see being an issue for Baltimore is the starting pitching.
I mean,
but Baltimore too, they're also a smart enough team that they can piece together game by game what they need.
Yeah.
Whereas Houston, it'd be like, okay, Valdez, get out there and throw 7. Baltimore will have to sit there. It's like, okay, if this guy's starting to Baltimore could go, bullpen 3-4 innings at a time with all their pitchers the whole series. Who knows? It all depends on the game. All depends on the flow.
And then just depth-wise, just look at the depth that Houston has a little bit. I mean, that Mauricio Dubon, great utility guy in the infield for them. So you have Baltimore, I have Houston. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. We're neither one of us are legit experts on this, or I'd
even argue expert.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy in a house with a microphone and a headset and internet access.
But I mean, we both agree though that like the
This will be
ALCS, the
that's going to
ALCS
be
could actually be decent. I mean,
it's going to be better. I think that's going to be the best matchup the entire playoff. World Series combined. I think the ALCS is going to be the series to watch.
I mean, I have Houston in 6, you have Baltimore in 7. That's tight. That's a really tight matchup.
It's going to be
if it gets to that point. So,
I mean, and how many times too do we really see 1-2 in the finals?
It's very rare. It's very rare.
It's rare. But if it does get down to that, which again, I've been trying to think logically up until this point, but illogically, I'm going to go with Baltimore winning the ALCS. But logically speaking, those are the two best teams.
Baltimore winning the whole thing. You almost let that slip out there, fella. You almost let that slip.
You got me. That's not a spoiler alert. That's not a spoiler alert.
I say, is that?
It's going to feed into it. It's going to feed in for sure.
People don't think we don't have fun on this show. Come on now. You almost spoiled something for everybody.
I'm going to shut my whore mouth.
Well, so we have our American League champion. I have Houston. You have Baltimore. So now we got to get to the other side. This is the good side, the favorite side, our favorite side.
The homer side.
The homer side. Let's start with that top of the bracket because that game will be on first here. So we got Arizona.
It's a 7:00 game.
Yeah, so Arizona, Milwaukee, which should be starting here any second. So what let's talk about it a little bit. How are you feeling about this series a little bit?
I think this is going to be an easy trip to LA for Milwaukee, even with Brandon Woodruff being out for the postseason at this point. I don't understand why Arizona they're starting a guy. Maybe they're out west. I kind of checked out for a little bit. Never heard of this guy pitching. Saw real quick. He's got a 5.7 ERA. Definitely not the kind of guy I want going out in a short 3-game series, unless you're planning on being down 1-0. Unless you plan on being down 1-0 and be like, we'll get him the next 2.
Well, on that note, I have Arizona winning 2-1 after trailing 1-0. I have them losing this game for your sole reason that I think this is a throwaway game for them because the matchups from here on out after you get past Corbin Burns is garbage. So you put your 2 best pitchers in again with Zach Allen and Joe Kelly. I think that's our other pitcher, right?
Yeah, Joe Kelly's Joe Kelly's the reliever. Or unless there's another Joe Kelly.
Merrill Kelly. Sorry, Merrill Kelly. My bad. They're number 2 guy.
Stupid common last names.
Yeah.
I can see that. I see what you're getting at there. Something just tells me though this is going to be a juggernaut offensive slugfest, even though it really shouldn't be.
I agree. I think Arizona is a little bit better offensively than what Milwaukee is going to be, just because of pitching matchups.
Yeah, and Arizona too. You called it back on the deadline episode. You really liked the Tommy Pham addition to Arizona, so they've got that. They've got Corbin Burns going.
Corbin Carroll,
Gurriel,
Marte, Christian Walker, top to bottom, dude. They're there.
Something. I mean, no matter. I'll spoil this. Whoever wins this isn't getting by LA.
Oh, I'm same.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. So even if I'm wrong, it's not going to cost me too much if we're doing this NCAA bracket point style. I think Milwaukee's going to win in 2.
Yeah, I have obviously D-backs 2-1. So I want to save that bottom part for last because you and I both are going to be on the same page on that one. So we'll just continue on through till we get to that part of the NLCS. So that puts.
So let's put the Dodgers in the NLCS and explain why.
I have Dodgers 3-1 over Arizona just because Arizona is going to get in there. It's going to be like a division matchup. They're going to steal one game out of that. And it's LA. You can't root against. It's hard to. We want to root against them. I can root
against them. I can root against them very easily.
I should say it's hard to bet against them in whatever matchup that's going to be for
in
them.
A 5-game series.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'll give one game to whoever advances, but LA is going to win in 4. Does LA strike absolute fear in me? No. Especially when you're looking at the number 1 seed coming out of the National League. If you were to line those two up, which, spoiler alert, I'm not.
Same page.
I'll throw the homer thing out there, but I'll get to why I'm picking that team over the other team in a minute. But LA they have, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. They've got the lineup. They've got pitchers. But that's not the team that worries me. The team that worries me is that stupid A symbol. That's the team.
100% same page as you are on that one. I think that is. How do I want to word this? I know the Braves were like, everybody thought they were.
Braves are number 1 offensively everywhere. They've got the most home runs. They've got the best average, the most runs, the most walks, everything.
Before we get into the talk of the Braves here, Braves were not that team last year. You know what I mean? Like, they were tough. Everybody thought they were going to be a tough out.
Braves are always the Braves. This year,
see, they are like what everybody thought the Padres were last year. Remember how, despite that stupid song that they did against the Phillies, everybody, including ESPN, MLB Network, Fox Sports, all of them thought San Diego was the best team out of the National League, and it was clear that they looked like they were going to be the best team out of the National League.
I think at the start of that, because they were the other wild card team, I don't think at the beginning everyone thought San Diego's the team. I think when they steamrolled the Mets, that's when it started. Yeah. But everyone still thought that Atlanta was good. At the point we're at now, a year ago, I still think everyone thought Atlanta was the team. But the way that the Padres and Phillies just steamrolled through the wild card, that's what changed everybody's mind.
Well, spoiler alert, with the same steamrolling through the wild card, I took the Phillies to sweep the Marlins in 2 games.
I wanted to take the Phillies to sweep the Marlins. The Marlins are sneaky. The sneaky, slippery fish that they are. Something tells me Nola's going to have a dud in game 2. And it's just going to be one of those Nola games where he's cruising through 3 2/3 and then just tanks and just gives up 5 runs. Then it's a bullpen game.
I thought the same thing, but I don't think he gives up all the runs. I think what's going to happen is he's going to struggle a little bit in that middle part of the game.
You think an early hook?
I think an early hook. I think they hook him early enough that the bullpen saves him. Because the moves that I know in our little chat, we were a little disappointed to not see Lorenzen make the wild card roster, which I understand. But I think the bullpen is stronger this year than it was last year. Yes. I think if Nola gets in trouble, they're gonna pull him. They're gonna save that.
Game what could be the thing in game 2 is if Nola struggles, watch out for Christopher Sanchez. Christopher Sanchez will be the emergency guy. And you save Ranger for 3 if needed.
Him or Strom. I think Strom is that sneaky guy too that can come in there. And if Nola struggles early on in that game where it's a 2-0 game, he gives up that 2-0 home run, make it 2-1, and the guy's on first. Hey, let's get him out. Get him some rest now, and
I think that's a lesson Rob learned.
Yeah. So, I think we're both on the same page here, though. We know what the NLDS matchup is going to be. It's going to be Phillies Braves. It's just how are they going to get to that point?
Yeah, and I think the Marlins are just going to squeak by, and Philly's going to lay a dud in one game. But it's going to be Phillies Braves, and then we're going to have another nail biter series against the Braves. And the point I was going to get to on this one is, I said earlier, the ALCS is going to be the best one to watch in terms of ultimate back and forth, only because that's going to go 7 games. I think the Braves and Phillies are going to go 5, and whoever comes out of that matchup is going to the World Series and could arguably win.
Yeah,
that Philly and Philadelphia is the only team the Braves fear.
I'm with you. I have Philly in 5. And I think what it comes down to is it's going to be that very last game 5 where it could be a Spencer Strider versus Zach Wheeler, ace versus ace matchup. It's going to have to be that. So you're going to have to go into the NLCS with the mentality of your number 1 guy is not going to be pitching that very first game.
No, it's going to be your 3 against 1.
Yeah.
It's Ranger. If all goes to plan, it's going to be Ranger or Sanchez. As that first game.
And I'd be okay with that. I am okay with sacrificing the fact that we would have to use Wheeler in Game 5 against the Braves to go up against Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider has been a Philly killer since he's been in the league. We get it. But Zach Wheeler has been a Brave killer since he's been in the league. So,
and I'm trying to think here too. What do you feel about TheOne Walker?
See, I think.
Do you give him any opportunity, or?
I think you have to. I think you would have to give him an opportunity.
Or do you play 4-man rotation because they're going to have an off day in there?
I think you still have to get. I think in a situational matchup, we'll say even like the NLCS, maybe not in the DS against the Braves, but in the CS against the Dodgers. I think you almost have to go with TheOne Walker in a game. If you're using Chris Sanchez, like we said, he could possibly be used as the, hey, we're pulling Nola in
Stop
game
the bleeding.
2. Stop the bleeding. Walker's going to have to be that guy, the next guy up to pitch. You almost have to do that.
And that's just like a Philadelphia mentality right now. I know we'll tie in a little bit of football here, but the Eagles have been getting hurt too. So again, it's just next guy up mentality. That just seems to be a very Philadelphia thing. Like, all right, that sucked. Let's go. Let's keep this train rolling, baby.
Yeah. So, I mean,
but whoever wins that matchup
is winning the World Series.
Is winning the World Series.
So on that, I mean, NLCS, we both have Phillies, Dodgers. I have Phillies in 6 over the Dodgers.
I was just going to say 6, 5 or 6, but yeah. And it's going to be one of those things too, where you get that late. Now you're going to have to start worrying about pitching depth and workloads. And that's one thing that cost them last year was Philly Rob got a little too cautious with Wheeler, right? In Game 6 of the World Series. Pulled him early for Alvarado against Alvarez, and that was the final nail in the coffin. So I think Rob learned his lesson there. He's going to let his guys go, especially that late. He's going to let them roll, but first sign of trouble.
I think the run last year was their opener on what they need to do with the pitching wise through the CS. Well, through the whole playoffs, I mean, we're not trying to jump ahead. I don't want people to think we're jumping ahead. Obviously, these are just our predictions or whatever, but you're talking wild card. You're going to see Wheeler, Nola first 2 games. Third game's going to be whoever.
The disadvantage of the wild card is, while yes, you may be going into the division series hot and warm and
it's 3 extra
in
games.
The flow, it's not only just 3 extra games. You have to in the wild card, you have to play to get to the next day.
Yeah.
So you can't save anybody. You can't rely okay, we're up big here. I can say, let's just say, Philadelphia's up in Game 2. Like, okay, it's close, but I don't have to use Kimbrel right now.
Yeah.
You don't have that option. It's go for the throat. It's constant go for the throat mentality.
And obviously
if you flutter, you lose.
And obviously we've watched a lot of the Phillies this year. We've watched a lot of the Braves.
We're homers.
We're homers. I mean, we get it. We're going to get called homers. There's a lot of people that feel the same as we do, though, when it comes to some of these predictions, when it like with the Phillies and it's themselves, because I
Some
think
actual experts.
it's like actual experts, guys. Like we're not sitting here saying we're changing the world with our picks. So, but the advantage I think Philly has this year compared to what they had last year is I think they have a little bit better bullpen depth than what they had last year. They can go to any guy in any situation with their current bullpen.
They've had one of the best bullpen ERAs throughout the whole year, too, which is something that Philadelphia has not seen in a while.
And at the beginning of the year, the biggest question mark we had was how well is this bullpen going to do? Because they held their own last year. Okay,
they got hurt early too.
They got hurt early, so there
was Dominguez, Alvarado. Yep. Soto was iffy. Kimbrel was the only thing that was solid, but even now he's apparently Rob came out and was asked the question: is Kimbrel the closer? And he basically said it's closer by committee.
Yeah, well,
so Rob's going in like dog mentality. If I'm going to steal a line from Sirianni.
And let's face it, the addition of Hoffman as a middle reliever has really helped them a lot. You're talking.
They really believe in Kirkering right now.
Yeah, Kirkering. The fact that he made his debut just
and for those watching who aren't the Philly fans that we are, this kid Orion Kirkering is something else. He's got a slider that I would say rivals Brad Lidge's, arguably one of the best sliders coming out of the bullpen. Massive break, it dives, it bends, and it comes at you at 85 to 88, and then he throws a 99-100 mile per hour sinker.
Yeah.
So I mean, the kid's got stuff. It's just a matter of do they trust him in the big spot. But we think we're both on page. Philadelphia gets Atlanta through 5. They're going to face the Dodgers in the CS and get through it in 6, which brings up to the matchup either of last year for you being the Astros and the Phillies, and I have a very worrying idea of where you're going to go. And then for me, I almost spoiled it by saying Orioles and Philly, but I think Orioles and Philly is going to be that final matchup. So kick it off, Source.
Okay, well.
Break my heart. Break my heart.
I have the World Series going 6 games, like last year. But the Phillies win the World Series over the Astros in 6 games, and I will tell you why. Because
I thought you were going to hurt me. I thought you were going to hurt me.
You like that little build up there, 6 games like last year, but I think. This is not a homer mentality. This is being a fan of baseball. Philly is built different this year. I think from top to bottom, that lineup, the fact that Trey Turner got hot when he did, Bryce Harper got hot when he did, there is a chance, because I have been seeing videos that Rhys Hoskins could be back. Do we want him back? I don't know. I would like to see him like in a game action just to make sure
I'll tell you my perfect Hoskins scenario, but
I think with their current lineup, I feel like we're going to go toe-to-toe with the American League. I think the Phillies are built 1,000% different than what they were last year. Their pitching is different. The bullpen there's more depth. Hitting-wise, I still nothing against Schwarber. If he's going to hit the home runs, he's going to hit the home runs. One thing I have noticed a lot that he's been doing a lot of lately, though, is he's getting on base again. He's not necessarily striking out. He is getting on base, though. So from top to bottom, just it's hard. They're hitters. They're hitters. They're playing baseball like they're supposed to be playing baseball. And I would hate to be. I experienced it last year. It's not to brag. I'd hate to come to Philly right now in a playoff game and try and beat them heads up, because you are going to lose, right? Like straight up, the fans are going to change this game.
Did you watch the hype video?
I did.
For those who didn't watch the hype video, I know we said earlier this is going to be a family show, but I'm going to extend that. We're going to get 2. Garrett Stubbs has the quote of the postseason. If you don't know Philadelphia, come to Philadelphia. And if you still don't like Philadelphia, get the fuck out.
Yep. So,
that's my backup catcher.
Yeah. I mean, and people could say what they wanted about those last few games where it was the hangover team because they were out partying
It's not even
they clinched. But they played so well even in those games where the backups were in. There's so much depth to this team now. I had them in 6 games against the Astros and looking forward to going to Philly for a parade for once in my life.
So looks like the Diamondbacks and Brewers they didn't just start. Arizona got sat down in the first. They're in the bottom of the first, 0-0 right now. Looks like the Twins are still up 3-1 on the Blue Jays at the top of the ninth. So
it just ended. It just ended. So what's his face at first base? Solano just made a diving play and pitcher went over to cover, so that game just ended 3-1.
So there we go. You got the Twins up 1-0. One thing we mentioned earlier too, we said before that this Houston Astros team is still a good team, but they're not the same as last year. Philadelphia was a little bit worse last year. The roles have almost kind of flipped. So you're spelling it out almost just like last year, and you've got the same teams coming together. But Philadelphia is just that little bit better where Houston regressed just slightly. So I can see in your mind how that's going to match up. However, as a surprise to nobody, I think Philadelphia is going to win in 6 against the Orioles. The only reason I think 6 is it's going to come down to pitching fatigue. I think the Orioles are going to win just a couple games just by being smart, by playing small ball and just capitalizing in areas. Because we've seen it all year. The Phillies will throw some duds out there. I think Baltimore is smart enough and good enough to capitalize on those duds. But at the end of the day, I trust Phillies starting pitching, including Taijuan Walker, than the Orioles right now. The bullpens seem pretty even, but I trust Philadelphia is stronger. And the Philadelphia offense has got 6 guys this year who hit 20 or more home runs. The bats are there. Philadelphia needs to win this thing this year. This is the time the Phillies need to come up, and while they're in this window, we've seen it between that 2007 to 2011, 2012 run where they had the window and they only won 1. They were there last year, finish the job this year, and compete for another year or 2. This is the one they need to win. This is the one.
So to your point on that, here's where I think them winning the World Series will be even more beneficial. So let's say they do win this World Series this year. I feel like they are more than capable of being repeat of going to the CS, to the World Series, like they did in that stretch where we, from 07 to 11, or even we'll say 2011, where they had that stretch where they were in it against
San Francisco, and they had the guys too. They had the guys. They just couldn't put it together.
So factor out the fact that we'll probably in this little stretch here at some point lose Schwarber,
lose Nola, Wheeler possibly,
maybe, but there are going to be guys that are going to be able to be replaced because of the lore of the fact that the Phillies are built for these playoff runs now. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have Harper. You're going to have
Harper
Turner.
And Turner.
They're going to sign Stott. They're going to sign Bohm. Casty's still there for at least 2 more years. I think.
So I was going to say
JT.
the Hoskins
JT.
is going to go, but let me tell you my perfect Hoskins scenario here. So obviously we talked about it before. The Orioles are going to have home field advantage. Should it be? Actually, did the Astros have a better record than the Phillies this year?
I think they had the same wins at 90.
Okay, so then we go into tiebreakers. I don't feel like going into tiebreakers. So let's just say the American League still has the home field advantage. The perfect Reese Hoskins send off for me is the final home game, or what would be the final home game. So we'll say that's game 5. Yeah, it'd be game 5 because 6 and 7 would be on the road at that scenario. Game 5, it's already settled. It's late. It's the bottom of the 8th. Phillies up by like 4 or 5 runs. Uh, Now batting for the Philadelphia Phillies, number 17, Reese Hoskins in a pinch hit role, gets his standing ovation, comes back from the knee surgery. Doesn't have to hit a home run. There's no pressure there. He gets to soak in that moment that he was robbed of this year.
Yeah.
And that would be the way, because I believe Bryce Harper continues to play first for the rest of his career.
Oops.
Wrong show.
Yeah, I was scrolling through something there.
No, you're good. That's a teaser though.
Yeah.
But I believe you give Hoskins that picture perfect send off. Unfortunately, I don't think he comes back next year because Harper's going to be the full-time first baseman. But you give Reese the playoff moment that he so deserves, that he was unfairly robbed of in spring training.
Keep in mind now, and again, I don't think you're completely wrong on this, but there is a chance that you could see.
It would be for a pinch hit kind of only thing.
Yeah.
He's not in the field.
Well, so we're talking along the lines of potential, like Nola possibly leaving and Hoskins and all this stuff. There's a chance a Nola could be replaced with a guy like a Marcus Stroman. So keep that in mind. Andrew Painter.
Micah Bell.
Yeah. So
Griff McGreary.
So we're talking here like, this Phillies team is built to win now. But
the core is there.
But the core, they're going to have guys that are going to be core for them for several years down the road. And it is going to draw the likes of guys wanting to come there. Like, here's another possibility. What about a Lucas Giolito?
After how crap he was in LA, I don't know.
But still, I mean, there's just.
We're talking way down the road.
We're talking way down the road, but still, like, there is a potential for this team to be that team again, like we saw back from 07 to 11, where you are scared to play them in the playoffs every year. And this is why, we're sitting here as you can call us homers, whatever you want to call us, but there's a reason why they're in this discussion of being that team that is not going to be the easy out like everybody thought they were last year. Like they are built so much different this year. You have them winning in 6 against Baltimore. I have them winning in 6 against Houston, and there's a reason why for that, and that's just because of how this team is and how this team is going to be built for future runs. So, and
you can even, we've said it all show. We are homers, but Source is, I can vouch for him and he can vouch for me. We have watched this team since we were children, and those 90s and early thousands teams were absolute laughing stock hot garbage. So This fan base needs it.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want about the fan base. Trace, I know you've got your things against the Eagles fans, which is totally up and fine. But that's fine. You can think what you want to think, because part of you is not wrong, but there are good fans in this fan base that have been heartbroken so many times that still live in 2008.
Hey,
myself included. I just need this.
Listen, so obviously 2008 was pretty emotional for every Phillies fan because that was an awesome World Series for us to win, especially against Tampa Bay. But I've been heartbroken a lot over these years, buddy, as a Cowboys fan, as a Flyers fan.
I'm talking strictly baseball here, so.
Well, no, I'm just saying. So I know I've been left down a lot more than what the Phillies have left me down, but it is nice that we can have these discussions again about, hey, playoff baseball back in Philadelphia. We haven't.
The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, well, this
Not
year
the movie.
But now it's the rally for Red October is what it is this year. Last year was the hunt. This year it's the rally for Red October. Man, it's exciting times as baseball fans. Playoff baseball is probably one of the most exciting times of the year. It took 162 games to get here. All the matchups, I know some of them we say are going to be terrible, but I like the matchups that we have this year in all the rounds of possibilities of all the matchups. So exciting time to be baseball fans. So if you haven't gotten into playoff baseball before, this is a great year to do it. There's going to be a lot of intensity, a lot of insane moments that are going to happen, and this might be the most memorable playoffs we will ever see in our lifetime.
And
no matter the outcome.
And to encompass all of that too, this is what the team's been fighting for all years, for this opportunity right now. So I can bet you none of these guys are going to, play it safe for. We saw it earlier in the Rays game even. Yeah, it was an errant throw over into the third base dugout, but in the regular season, you don't make that throw. In the postseason, like, you try to gun these guys down. You take every little thing you can. Then, while at the end of the day, you want to limit mistakes, stakes are a little higher now. So you may be willing to throw a few balls around, but smartly throw a few balls around.
So real quick, just a quick update here. In the end of the first inning, the Dodgers pitcher that fought has 2 hits, gave up a run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Milwaukee's up 1-0 with a base hit from Carlos Santana. Christian Yelich scored, and Wilson Contreras went to second, and then they got out of the inning. So the first 3 batters got on base, and then he struck out the next 3, and Kana, Frelick, and Willie Adames.
So going almost to plan how we thought it would.
Yeah. So
not too bad for some so-called experts.
Yeah. So Tim,
speaking of so-called experts, you have some news to break, my friend.
Yeah, posted it earlier. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about it. Finally came about. The puck drops here. Hockey podcast next Monday. This is not going to be a weekly show. It's going to be hopefully twice a month, like once every other week type show. I'm telling you right now, there's a lot that's going to be talked about in this first episode. We're going to preview the season. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened last year and the offseason, some of the biggest headlines, including the Mike Babcock situation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how much I hate the fact that Connor Bedard's on the Chicago Blackhawks, but how good he's going to be. So tune in next Monday, 7 p.m. Maybe a half-hour long show, maybe an hour-long show. Who knows?
Hockey fans, bring the content, bring the comments, bring the questions.
Yeah. And don't forget, Dukes tomorrow. Lots to talk about on the Dukes. Lots of football that has happened over the last several days. Some surprising games. I know. Can't wait to see the standings for all of our picks because I was really bad. That was terrible.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah. Hopefully they talk a little bit about the Fantasy Football League too and how Dan Stevens, Mr. Go Reds, Mr. This guy flaps his wings as much as he flaps his jaws about the Eagles. Is bottom of the barrel. I just beat him. Just keep that in mind. So
on that note,
love you, Dan.
That could be had out tomorrow during the Dukes. Yep. Keep an eye out for all postings on the network pages, BW Sports 1. Give us a like, give us a follow all the shows. And you've seen them scrolling around on the bottom, wherever my finger's going to end up. Here, there, all over. Check out the sponsors: Elite Performance, Checkered Life Customs, Fighter's Friend, Doc Sports Picks, mybookie.ag, TheOne's Kitchen, Interbeast Sportswear, Southern Indiana Combat Productions, Deals Discount, and more.
Go Phillies, baby. Let's go. Red October's in full effect.
And keep an eye out. We'll be back as well during the playoffs to check in and everything. Source, thanks for jumping in with this one for me, man. Let's
Hey, before we sign on, let's figure something out here real quick. Depending on schedules, maybe, just maybe, we will be able to bring you, like we did before, the live show during a live watching for one of the games. So if anybody is interested, if we can get it posted and a schedule posted, we will accept all and any guests that want to come on and talk baseball with us.
Open forum, baby. Let's do it.
Open forum.
Open forum. You heard it from the source.
So Big Ben is still watching. Get a camera and a microphone and come on and talk Philly baseball with your boys.
That's a shout out if I ever heard one. Until next time, guys. Go Phils.